for invitation. I'm very proud to present our very long research work, which is grouped a quite big report, which we have almost 200 pages, of course, including bibliography and references. But we try to present this event as much details as possible, because it is not just a demonstration. It's a whole set of organizations, events, media, sport events, and all that interconnected around this one date, which is 11th of November, which is the Polish national holiday. And of course, it's also complicated in sense who is who in this march, because every time when this march is described in Polish media or foreign media, supporters or people who oppose try to choose one or two specific groups and say this is just normal march, or this is a band of neo-fascists. It depends from which perspective you are looking on. So we decided to go deeper and analyze who were the guests officially invited to this demonstration by the organizers, who are the organizers, what kind of organizations are active in this demonstration, and the whole set of activities around this demonstration, and also, which is said, some interconnections, some connections with the more mainstream right-wing parties, and to present that in one big report. So I'm going to put my presentation on, and we're going to try to describe who is who and why in this event, and what's the aim of these people. Okay, let's start from the beginning. In the beginning, we have to understand that in the Polish independence march milieu, you got main three currents, and they, for a long time, has been, trying to dominate this this event. One I could describe as, let's say, conservative and solidaristic in the sense of economy. And these are mainly the representatives of, let's say, the right wing of a contemporary ruling party in Poland, politicians who, or let's say, right wing of that party. It's called one is Solidarna Polska, and the right wing of the Law and Justice Party. The other group, which are I would describe as simple as possible, ultra traditionalist and let's say pro-free market group. It's Konfederacja Party, the party which is to the right to the ruling Law and Justice Party. And the third group are different kinds of neo-fascists, the numerous groups, small groups of these, let's say, neo-pagan, new rightists, third position, neo-Nazis, national Bolsheviks, national revolutionaries. They do not have the one representation, but they are, let's say, sharing, let's say, some basic ideas about reality. Here you got a picture in which I tried to present using the logotypes of different organizations, who is who in
something
which,
went wrong with
which,
the
let's say,
sharing of your slides. I can't see your slides, Przemyk.
I don't know why. Okay, you don't see my slides, sorry.
Nope.
But I put my present, I didn't share my screen, but very sorry. I'm a little bit nervous probably about sorry. Okay, so going back, now it's probably visible. Yeah.
Absolutely, just do it full screen and then we're there. Perfect, absolutely. Now it's perfect.
Okay, so this is the first screen showing the three main narratives, main currents in, let's say, the people who attend the Independence March. Some of them organize Independence March, but people who are active and from what kind of political camps they are. First, this conservative and solidaristic right wing of Law and Justice Party, then ultra-traditional and pro-free market Konfederacja Party, and then all these numerous small groups of neo-pagans and so on. Let's call it neo-fascist. That's not simplification, but neo-fascist. So here in this slide, you may see the logotypes of these organizations showing who is who in which, let's say, current. On the left, you got these parties and organizations which are cooperating closely or are a part of the ruling camp, and especially this because some of the smaller parties are not attending elections, but they are on the list of Law and Justice Party. This is peace with this eagle and the crown, and with smaller are around him. Then in the center, you got this ultra-traditionalist and pro-free market parties, groups, which are also the part of the umbrella party called Confederacja, because Confederacja, which I mentioned, is umbrella party. So you got here monarchists, nationalists, kind of ultra-traditionalists in the religious sense, ultra pro-free market kind of libertarian approach to the economy also. Then on the right, you got these different groups of neo-fascists and different kinds of neo-fascists, more, let's say, more racist, less racist, more concerned about workers' rights, more about different organization of the economy in general, or more concerned about neo-pagan values, or let's say connected to nouvelle droit kind of thinking. Here you got on this slide kind of zoom in into this, let's say, extremist kind of participants, Polish, of course, here of this demonstration. And also, like, as you see, numerous kinds of small organizations. But going back for a moment to that slide, the important element here is something, let's say, in the middle. Mainly this Ruch Narodowy, nationalistic party, and Młodzież Wszechpolska, the youth branch, were the main organizers of this event in the beginning. They cooperated with the association with ONR, with this kind of hand with sword, and they created the organization, like NGO, called Independence March Association, which was running this demonstration, organizing main events, having the logotype, and being the main platform of interconnection between this part on the left and this part on the right. Because which is a sad thing, it's not like, let's say, comparable to some countries in which you get kind of sanitary cordon, like so-called, between extremists and like mainstream right-wing parties. In Poland, sadly, there is more like a transmission belt in which some activists of very radical or very kind of extremist kind of organization may transfer themselves in time into, let's say, more mainstream organizations, but very often not losing this kind of extremist vibe. That's why a lot of ideas which are born in the far right may easily be transferred to the, let's say, much more mainstream right-wing political parties in Poland, because there is no kind of a division of, if you began as a neo-fascist, you can in a few years become something, let's say, more a politician in a, let's say, more respectable right-wing party. And this is not really something which is very often happening in, let's say, other European countries, I know. But here, this Independence March Association was a platform in which the guys from the right, which were very often providing kind of bodyguard service, or the first participants which created a critical mass for this event were recruited, or they came from that milieu. And on the left, this say mainstream, but still very right-wing political parties were providing kind of transfer of ideas and advertisement into more mainstream right-wing magazines. It started from, let's say, some musicians, also columnists, public intellectuals, which perceived this demonstration as vigorous or very patriotic, and not really try to look on these much more extremist elements than normal right-wing, but just very happy that after years of a communist regime in Poland, there are young people who are organizing patriotic event, and they are trying to create a big demonstration. So what's the difference between them, except approach to violence? The main elements which are differences between these three currents, attitudes to the free market and redistribution, because this center, like attitude to the Catholic Church, relationship to Ukraine and Russia, attitude towards Jews, relationship with the United States, and attitude towards non-white people. So to simplify that to the maximum, on the left and on the right, you got most anti-Russian and pro-Ukrainian approach. In the center, you got much more pro-Russian groups. In the right here, in this neo-fascist milieu, there are people who are like much more critical of the capitalist system. In the left, in the peace camp, you got people who are, let's say, pro-redistribution. In the center, ultra pro-free market. And attitude towards religion. On the right, in neo-fascists are not so much Catholic, they're often like neo-pagans or sometimes even atheists. And these groups more to the left here are much more religious, with the, let's say, ultra-religious version in the center. So as you see, they have a lot of ideological conflicts in between them, no matter they were cooperating in creating this event, because also they have some similarities. These similarities are like shared by all of them: homophobia, nationalism, like anti-liberal approach in sense of the liberal democracy, or inversion of illiberalism, or let's say in the extremist right also, let's say just fascist approach. Islamophobia, of course, anti-multiculturalism and anti-German sentiments and anti-EU sentiments in a different, extent, of course, because neo-fascist or this ultra-traditional pro-free market parties are like ultra-critical and want dissolvement of European Union, and let's say Law and Justice Party doesn't want any dissolvement of the European Union. They would change it something less, united. So this is the platform on which they were building the agreements, the activities together. And what kind of activities? Let's go to this, because as Hans mentioned, and I also mentioned, that it's not just a demonstration on the 11th of November, but also we were organizing a music festival called Towards Independence for, let's say, 7 years at least. There were thematic conferences: National Social Congress, Europe of the Future, and Labor Nation. They were, about different elements of social life. Labor Nation, of course, about the workers' rights in context of, let's say, nationalism. Europe of the Future was more about the geopolitics, and National Social Congress, it was more about, not only economy, but also other social issues. They were also organizing thematic conferences in the Polish parliament, and the invited guests, which I'm going to tell a little bit more in a moment, were invited to the Polish parliament to speak about, future of Europe, future of European Union, relation to, let's say, Russia, or LGBTQ topics. And of course, MMA tournaments called First to Fight, which is part of this all-European network of MMA far-right tournaments, very often organized by Denis Kapustin, aka Nikitin, and his White Tracks group in France, Italy, or Greece, or here they were guests, of course, also in Poland. And here are the guests. Can divide them in the 3 main categories: guests of the organizers, guests of the organizers' partners. Like organizers officially are is only the Independence March Association, and they were officially inviting politicians from Jobbik, Michał Mozgalom, both from Hungary, Democracia Nacional from Spain, 64 Countries Youth Movement also from Hungary, Forza Nuova from Italy, Ludowa Strona Nasza Śląsko from Slovakia, or Vox Party from Spain. The guests of organizing partners, I mean, like you have this main organizers, but they also give the logotype, support, promotion to smaller groups or some magazines in which they advertise the event, or write the articles, or write the columns. And it's like, let's say, very close connection, especially in a period in which every year you have you have this independence march. And here are much more extreme organizations. If the first category is more, let's say, ultra right-wing, but still, you know, attending elections, taking part in elections, and like not very, like not liking a lot of democracy, but let's say taking part in that process officially. In this group, you got much more, let's say, extreme groups like Nordic Ungdom from Scandinavia, Carpathian Fitch, National Corps from Ukraine, Kasapam Italia from Italy, Bulgarian National Movement from Bulgaria, of course, Hogar Social from Spain, Bastion Social from France, Croatian Party of Rights from Croatia, Sinine Elratus from Estonia, Vistu Latvia from Latvia, Russian Center and Volnica from Russia, and Misanthropic Division, let's say, generally from Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine. So much more extreme groups. And they were, of course, present with banners, flags, representation, and they were mainly, the first group is more like going in the first row and close to the organizers. This group is more active in so-called Black Bloc, which is, let's say, block of neo-fascist marching in that demonstration, organized by mainly in Poland by the Sturm magazine, which is the most important magazine for a neo-fascist media in Poland. And then you got guests of accompanying events. I mean, like White Rex MMA group in this MMA tournament, or Blood and Honor Network Rock Against Communism bands playing in towards Independence Festival. And also you have different, probably well known to you individuals who participated and advertised the Independence March as a future kind of event which should be copied, or it's an ideal which all the nationalists or white nationalists or alt-righters should look on and learn from that. Of course, you got Tommy Robinson, also Bernardon Tarrant, later perpetrator of a terrorist attack in Christchurch, alt-right activists like Jack Posobiec, Stefan Molyneux, Tomislav Sunic, Jared Taylor, Ruben Kaleb, or Daniel Freeberg, or politicians like Nick Griffin or Roberto Fiore. So it was a event. It was an event which allowed them to meet, exchange information, present what they are doing, organize conferences, take part in sport, music events, and also created a kind of, let's say, option for creating their own brands or media. What about media? You know, the organizers created the whole network of NGOs and initiatives, which is connected to the event, but it lasts and works all through all the day, over a year, not just only around, as I think things I mentioned before, all around this event, but also for a whole year. Like media, national media channel, which started as a kind of bundle of media for the nationalists, and step by step they created a kind of professional television studio, and now they are trying to enter the cable TV option and become, let's say, a normal, not just a YouTube channel television. Then you got NGOs, like the main, of course, Independence March Association, but also other Independence March squadrons, National Guard, and Association Victory March. And they are for different, let's say, activities of this milieu. Some of them, let's say, have almost quasi militia kind, if we talk about National Guard Association, or let's say more cultural aspects like Victory March Association. And they started a youth training center Kuznia in Warsaw, and they bought a few real estates near and in Warsaw. And they established a good connection with the public institutions. One is the Institute of National Remembrance, which is a huge institution in Poland, 500 million zlotys budget yearly, which is generally dealing with the history issues of the last 50, 60, 70 years. And they are cooperating in the, let's say, historical projects with them. And Institute of Heritage of National Thought, of nationalistic thought, I would say more, because this would be more exact, what is the main issue of what this institute is dealing with. And this is a public institution which the idea is to help promote patriotic approach to Polish history, but the topic which is used is promotion of the nationalistic thought, of political thought in Polish heritage. You may ask yourself how they are able to afford all of that. Oh, this is the problematic story, because and it needs like a little bit explanation. This event has been created by people who are right now running the Konfederacja party, and this is an election competition kind of entity to the Law and Justice Party, and both parties want to have an influence over this organizing this Independence March demonstration association. And there is an ongoing conflict inside the association, in which the current leader, Robert Bąkiewicz of this association, after intensive conflict with his former collaborators and with, let's say, parts of the neo-fascist movement, made a lot of steps to be closer to the ruling party. And the ruling party would like to have this influence on the biggest demonstration in Poland generally, and probably in the region. So they are, after this conflict inside the association, they granted this Robert Bąkiewicz headed NGOs a lot of public funds. I would say last estimations was about 8 million zlotys, which is about 2.5, let's say, million euros. And this money, which Mr. Bąkiewicz got from the governmental side, from different kinds of funding, from different ministeriums and different public funds, he used, as I mentioned, for building this media, national media professional channel, and buying all the equipment like a professional TV studio and cars and for sound. So generally he used for that. He also bought some real estate, cars, and he started this Kuźnia Youth Center. And now he is multiplying the organizations to get more and more funds, because the Polish government is transferring a lot of funds for the so-called patriotic organizations, and very often they are run by different kinds of nationalists. And Mr. Bąkiewicz and his milieu is really trying to use that money for his benefit as much as possible. Of course, in the beginning, when they had just only crowdfunding, it was much less professional. And now I see this event as a kind of ultra professional done with a good graphic layout. They have, of course, every year some kind of the main catchphrase of the event, but also the kind of anthem, kind of well done graphics of the posters, of advertisements. So technically, they grew from just a demonstration, which started like more than about 10 years ago, a little bit more, from the, let's say, ultra right-wing extremist organization into ideological apparatus, which created their own media, their own clothing brands, their own music festival, has a huge influence on developing of right-wing media. So I just named one, channel. We get more smaller, but this creates this kind of vibe in which nationalism becomes for some, of course, some of the people, fashionable option to choose, and nothing, repulsive, both in the sphere of how does it look visually, our event, and all this kind of layout of this event and of elements connected with, but also as a political idea. So, going to the conclusions of my presentation, effects of that demonstrations are not just one-time march through Warsaw, but you got an extensive network of nationalists and right-wing extremist media in Poland. I could name like 20 titles. Of course, they are limited and small, but as they were excluded from, let's say, mainstream media, they were the first wave which started this online media because they were not allowed to mainstream. And now they are quite well developed in different and divided into different smaller, but a lot of channels. And this event also allowed to create a broad, like a contact network between like a very diverse group of nationalists and right-wingers, and allow them to transfer the ideas from that, typically more like fringe kind of groups to the right-wing scholars, intellectuals, artists, sportsmen, television personalities, and even several parliamentarians close to peace or in the peace camp, a Law and Justice Party. They created press conferences, thematic meetings, music concerts, and sports, which also allowed to transfer a lot of ideas, which in the 90s, I was mainly able to find in a kind of fringe zines, skinhead kind of. Now they are circulating in the Polish mainstream and be discussed as, let's say, normal propositions. Because, as I mentioned, there is no really kind of sanitary cordon for these ideas in Poland, and they are kind of easily through this channel also being transferred into mainstream. They were able, based on this, let's say, social movement around this event, to create a political party, Ruch Narodowy, which became a pillar of, let's say, far-right umbrella party called Confederation. And this political party is lately having polls about 11–12% of potential voters, which is a huge development for this earlier, like as I mentioned, kind of more fringe milieu. They also were, because of this inviting people from different countries to Poland, to create a wide transnational network. It allows them to exchange experiences, funds, know-how, how to work in different kind of environments. From the West, you got also transfers of money into these organizations, and from the East, you have like more, let's say, militant approach brought in this, let's say, intellectual exchange. So they also created a kind of a network of mutual support between these groups. Known as what I mentioned already, new lines of clothing, new bands, and new sport brands. So I think it's like, let's say, this is the end of my presentation. I'm very open for your questions and for the whole discussion.